calling in from today, by the way? Like where are you based?
I'm in Burlington.
Oh, nice. Okay, great.
And where are you from? Or right now?
I am based in Toronto. So yeah, we're actually at our office, which is downtown Toronto.
Excellent. Have you been out to any of our startup drinks events?
I definitely have been to at least one.
Good, because we definitely have to get you out if you haven't been.
Yeah.
All right, so we're live. We're good here. We're good here. We're recording. And that's muted. Perfect. All right. If you're ready, have water. Okay.
Good.
Welcome back to Startup Talk. I'm your host, the startup coach, founder of Toronto Starts, one of the largest startup communities in Canada. And with me today is Cato Pastoll, CEO and co-founder of Loop Financial. Welcome, Cato.
Thanks for having me today.
Can you tell us about your background and what inspired you to co-found Loop?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in England originally. I've been in Canada for most of my life now, but was raised by two entrepreneurs. Both my parents ran their own businesses. So I grew up in very much an entrepreneurial family background. I used to work in my parents' businesses growing up. My mom ran a catering business. So I did everything from cleaning the dishes to working in the kitchen, all the way to doing her books and working in the finances of her business. So, I've always been closely aligned with being a founder or running a small business. And so that was one of the things that, passions that stuck with me through life. And one of the things that I really wanted to do in starting my own business was actually support other small businesses and support other founders who are building their own companies and going through the journey of doing that. And that was really kind of the core inspiration behind starting Loop.
Managing the finances and dealing with cash flow is a major problem or a major mind. Let me start that again. Managing cash flow and your finances is a main concern for entrepreneurs and small business owners. What specific challenges did you observe that Canadian businesses face in managing their finances, and how did that motivate you?
Yeah, there are many challenges and pain points that business owners face, and this is not uniquely Canadian as well. It's all around the world. Unfortunately, banks, traditional banks in the banking sector, are not constructed in a way to really support entrepreneurs and support people building businesses. So, when it comes to doing basic things like getting access to working capital to grow your business, getting things like credit cards to use for your business with the kind of credit limits that make sense on a business level. Those products and services that are offered by banks are not built for smaller companies. They're either built for consumers, individuals, or they're built for larger businesses, large corporations. And so there's a big gap in the market when it comes to managing your finances and managing, the financial services partners that you have. If you are an entrepreneur or a small business owner, you typically find that you only start to get service once you're beyond a certain size and scale. And that's unfortunate. That's not the way that it should work. So that creates a lot of downstream implications for companies. It creates things like high fees. It creates an inability to get products to solve for working capital needs. So, for example, business is all about cash and working capital. And many times, if you can't access the tools to smooth over the lumpiness of working capital, it can be really challenging to operate a business. If you can't get access to accounts in other countries, it can be challenging to operate a business. So there's all these kind of individualized pain points that small business owners have that I think stem from the competitiveness of the financial services infrastructure that exists today. And that's one of the core things that we're trying to solve for.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't really understand some of the aspects of lumpiness, as you call it, whether it's cash flow in the form of inventory or whether it's staffing. You enter a 1, 2, 3 year contract with a large company that you get paid by milestones or every 3 to 6 months, but you've got to pay 10 people full time to deliver that contract between now and then. How do you cover those costs in between to make sure that, before those big chunks of money come in? And it sounds like Loop is there to help.
Totally. I mean, like, just to give you like an even more kind of simplified example, you have a contract with a large retailer and, they're asking for $1 million of inventory, but you don't have $1 million of cash to go and buy $1 million of inventory, right? So you'd love to take on that business. It's going to help you grow, but maybe you don't have the wherewithal or resources to do that. And so we want to be a partner that helps with things like that. But we also want to be a partner that also helps just managing, actually making those payments. So like, let's say you're going and making payments to your vendors in other parts of the world, or let's say you are, trying to bill your customers. We want to also help manage the cash flow cycle that way, because sometimes it's just a case of, hey, it's taking me too long to get paid, or it's taking me too long to make a payment, or it's too expensive to convert money between this currency and another currency. Those are all things that compound the issue that you were talking about of that kind of lumpiness in cash flow. And we want to be that true financial partner to companies so that you don't have to worry about any of these aspects of things. You kind of let Loop take care of all aspects of running your business.
Startup owners often have vendors and suppliers in the US or in other countries, or are expanding their business to the US, and they don't know when to have a US based account or Canadian account. And Loop is described as a cross border banking platform. Could you explain how Loop helps Canadian business operate internationally?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the core, I'd say, function of what we do and how we help businesses. So what we do is we actually can help a business get a local US account. So what that means is you can go to a Canadian bank and you can open up a US dollar account. But the problem with that US dollar account is that it's actually in Canada. The money is in Canada. The account is in Canada. And so let's say you go to your customer in the US and you say, hey, please pay me. Here's my account details. And you give them, your account number and your transit number. They're going to look at it and say, what is this? Because they're used to seeing a routing number, an ABA routing number, which is the American, version of a transit number. And essentially, the key difference there is a US dollar account is not a US dollar account. There's a difference between an account that's based in Canada versus one in the US. And so what we've been able to do is actually give Canadians the ability to open up a local account in the United States. What that does in simple kind of terms is it gives you the ability to get paid or make payments as if you were a local company in the United States. So rather than having to initiate cross-border payments and wires and all this stuff from Canada into the US and from the US back to Canada, having a local US operating account actually allows you to do all that stuff domestically in the US. So you can actually send, your vendors payments locally, and you can get your customers to pay you locally. We've also built things that allow you to bill your customers through the platform. So we can actually go and request payments on your behalf from your customers. So we can actually go and do revenue collection for companies. And then we also offer the ability to make payments all around the world. So we can pay to 180 different countries and in 37 different currencies all around the world through our platform. So if you're a business and you're paying your suppliers or your vendors, you can collect that money from your customer in Loop, and then you can make that payment in Loop. So it's a very seamless kind of end-to-end experience.
I work with entrepreneurs all the time, and one of the biggest complaints I hear about is how hard it is to work with banks. What sets Loop apart from traditional banking institutions in terms of financial products and services you offer?
It's really that we are built for businesses. We are really at our core entirely culturally oriented around helping entrepreneurs and helping small businesses be successful. The product offering that we built was built brand new from the ground up with the intention of understanding what are the key challenges that small business owners face. And then we went and built the products that are actually tailor-made for companies. So we heard from companies, hey, I need a local US account to get payments. Great. We heard, hey, I need a credit card that actually gives me a credit limit that's representative of my business size. Great. We went and built a credit card for them. We heard that businesses needed the ability to spend money in different currencies. So we created a credit card that could spend money in different currencies. We also built the ability for people to pay their vendors around the world. So that all of these individual things, and I could keep going on and on, weren't built because we thought that was the best thing to build, or thought because, maybe this is where we'll make the most money. We built them really from the perspective of our customer. We try to understand what is a small business's number one need, and how can we try to fulfill on that need, and basically build a better way for them to operate their business. So in short, the reason is that because we're actually built for businesses, and we're built for cross-border businesses. Like, we built Loop with that goal and with that customer audience in mind.
Now, I wouldn't have thought twice about just using my regular corporate Canadian card to buy whatever in the US, and why not? Why do I need a Canadian and USD corporate card? What benefit does it offer?
Yeah, great question. This is a little known piece of information that can save you quite a lot of money. So on average, the statistic is that banks will charge 5.7% as a currency markup fee when you convert between one currency and another. So like, let's say you go and you use your Canadian credit card to make a purchase in the US. Let's say the exchange rate is 1.3. So $1 is supposed to be, $1.30 Canadian. When you go and use your Canadian card, the card will actually charge you something like 1.35 or 1.36. So basically, you've just lost 5% or paid an extra 5% to the bank in exchange for making that foreign currency transaction. So, if you spend on advertising, you could be spending tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. That could be $500,000 of fees that you're paying in currency conversion fees. And so what our product does, the multi-currency card, is it actually allows you to spend and repay in the same currency that you spend the money in. So if you spend in US dollars, you use US dollars to pay. Basically, there's zero currency conversion fee associated with that. So you save 5.7% on average on every purchase that you make. And so, I would encourage any founder, whether you work with us or anyone else, to make sure that you are spending, you're matching your expenses to the product that you're using to purchase with. So if you're going to go and use a card to spend in US dollars, make sure you're using a US dollar card or a multi-currency card. Don't use a Canadian card to pay in US dollars, because you're gonna lose a fortune of money.
Yeah, so if you go down on a business trip for a couple of weeks or a conference or whatnot, you're spending thousands of dollars. That really adds up pretty quick.
It sure does. And imagine you're also using a card to spend on things like advertising. That could be thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, right? So those numbers can get pretty big pretty quickly.
Yeah, if you're doing a marketing campaign or a conference, you're spending tens of thousands of dollars for a booth and all that other stuff. Yeah, it adds up really quickly. Now, one of the things I noticed on your website was that your US accounts are highlighted as no fee accounts. That sounds like something founders would also be interested in. Could you explain that?
Yeah, I mean, typically, cross-border accounts come with huge amount of fees. So you're paying things like, when you're getting money in, you could be paying as much as $50 for wire transfers in and out of that account, because the money is moving from one country to another, and it's done through a system called wire transfers. Because we offer local accounts, you can do local payments through Loop, meaning like you can collect money through what's called ACH, which is the local payment method in the United States. And we don't charge any fees for incoming or outgoing ACH payments. So if you use Loop to collect money in the US, every time you receive money and every time you send money, you're going to save on that $50 wire fee. So again, another way that like companies can save quite a lot of money. And the way, that to do that is by getting a local account. So I would encourage any business owner that's going to operate in another country, whether it be the United States, United Kingdom, Europe, Australia, to get local accounts for those countries before you do start transacting, because you're going to save a huge amount of money on the payment flows back and forth.
Access to scalable capital. access to scalable capital is a key feature you've been talking about. Can you elaborate on how you provide growth capital to business based on recent performance? Perhaps maybe I've now got seed round funding. I've got $5 million and maybe my credit needs to change, or I'm, month over month, I'm growing 50% and traditional banks can't help me. How do you help?
Yeah, we build, tailor-made products is kind of the way I would describe that. So the products that we create are meant to help businesses. So I've been speaking a little bit about our credit card, for example. The credit card is very unconventional because how it works is we actually set credit limits on the credit card based on your sales. So we actually will integrate with platforms like Shopify, like Amazon, like Stripe. And through that integration, we're able to basically tell companies, how much credit they would be able to access based on their sales data. So we can do analytics on that information and help companies get access to higher credit limits than they would through a bank, because banks usually look at your personal credit. They just look at like, okay, what does your personal credit score look like? And I'm going to set a credit limit off of that. They don't take the business's performance into account. So that allows us to set higher limits on average, but it also allows us to scale those limits as a company scales. So as a company grows and as a company's size increases, they also, will be able to benefit from larger access to the capital that they get. And then we've also been building other products. We were speaking a little bit earlier about, lumpiness and working capital. We've built products that are relatively unique, like, for example, purchase order financing. So we have products that enable companies to fulfill on purchase orders just purely based on the order that they have from their customer. So again, the way that, a traditional bank might work is they're going to go through every aspect of your business, and they're going to spend a lot of time doing due diligence and looking through financial statements and looking at cash flow. And they'll kind of not kind of see the forest from the trees and understanding like, okay, here's an order that you have from a customer, and you're going to make X amount of money on it, and you're going to get paid back in 3 or 6 months. We finance based on those terms. So we basically look at like, what is the actual specific need that this company has? And then we will be able to provide, the access to the working capital through those existing products that we have to those companies. And the great thing is that it's all integrated together. So we're not talking about many different disparate teams or systems. It's all integrated into one single product that you have with us.
As the CEO of Loop, how are you prioritizing banking reform, and how do you advocate for better support for small and medium-sized businesses?
Yeah, been doing that for many years now in Canada. I have been, as I said, the whole reason that I got into this business was to support entrepreneurs and small business owners. Like that's fundamentally why we decided to start the company, was because we saw that it's very challenging to start and build a business, and we wanted to create a better way for, founders to be able to do that. And so that means pushing the envelope and needle of what's possible. We've had direct conversations with regulators, with people within the government, with, advisory committees on things like open banking in Canada, to try to level the playing field and make it easier for business owners to compete in a market that's very crowded by large oligopolistic institutions that we have in Canada, right? Like we have a lot of industry here that's, dominated by just a few players. And we're small still ourselves, but we've been trying to get our voice heard on behalf of all the small businesses that we work with, that, the government needs to do more to make it easier for entrepreneurs and founders to actually operate and build businesses in this country. So that's something that is a message that we've tried to bang our drum on as much as possible. And we'll continue to do that because, again, our mission is to support small business owners.
Loop has provided over 100 million to businesses across Canada. So you're not that small. Can you share some success stories or examples of how Loop has positively impacted the growth and success of their businesses?
Yeah, I mean, we've worked with thousands of companies to give them access to financing. As I said, we now do a lot more than just provide access to financing. So we also work with a lot of companies that use us for things outside of access to capital, just being able to open accounts in the US or get local payments or make payments around the world. So we've been able to, I think, have an impact in many ways, whether it's saving companies money, on things like fees, saving companies time, because before us, they typically have to use banks and credit card companies and expense management companies and payment providers and 5, 6, 7, 8 foreign exchange businesses, all these companies that exist within the ecosystem just to be able to operate. We reduce that down to a single platform, so it also saves a huge amount of time for business owners. And then we also, give people the ability to grow. We give them the tools and the access and the resources to be able to help them grow, whether that means growing internationally, whether it means getting access to the capital that they need to grow their business. So there's a number of different things that we've kind of put together in our suite of offerings to help companies really hit the next level.
What is your vision for the future of Loop as one of the co-founders? What would you define as success in 15 years?
Being widely known as the best place for a small business owner to partner with to grow their business, right? Like, we want to be seen, I would say, by entrepreneurs and small business owners as a financial partner. And so knowing that businesses are using us and relying on us to be able to grow their business, not just in Canada, but all around the world, is really what we are striving for at the end of the day. So I would say, if Loop is ubiquitously known as, the financial partner for businesses, in that period of time, I think that will be something that will definitely be a mission that we could all be proud of.
So Loop is referred to as Canada's #1 bank for entrepreneurs. What makes Loop deserve that moniker?
Yeah, so we're a financial service provider. I would say we're more than a bank is kind of an interesting term. It's typically referred to in a more traditional sense. What we do, I'd say, is really being a financial partner to companies, and the reason that I would say like we are #1 is because we are truly dedicated to helping small businesses and entrepreneurs. So that goes full circle in what we were talking about today, which is, as a financial services provider to small businesses, we are built to support them and support their particular needs that they have. And so having that direct mission is what allows us to service them better than anyone else is able to service them, just specifically because we have them as our #1 goal in mind. And so we do things that are built to support our customers from the onset, and that's kind of why I would describe us as worthy of the title of being #1.
You mentioned you work with thousands of businesses. What are some of the common pain points or challenges that entrepreneurs face when it comes to managing their finances?
Access to services. So I think just being able to access the tools that they need to operate their business. I often talk to founders, and the way that they've had to build their businesses, basically, glue and sticky tape to bring a whole bunch of different things together, because there's a lot of services that they need that are not purpose built for them. So, I would say that, one of the big things that we're trying to solve for is centralizing a lot of the back end operations of a business so that they can focus on doing what they do best. As an entrepreneur or founder, you usually start a company with a passion and a mission and a goal in mind, and everything other than that goal is a distraction. And so if we can simplify a company's life, and effectively remove all those distractions so that they can be laser focused on what they're passionate about, which is their product and their customer, then I think like that's the way that we can unlock value for companies.
New business owners, small business owners, startups, we're all concerned about long-term credit. Can you provide some insight into the process of attaining long-term credit with Loop?
Yeah. So I mean, Loop in itself, I think would describe to us as a financial partner. And so I think we can advise on what are the best tools for companies to use when it comes to being able to access credit. Sometimes those tools are long-term. Sometimes we would recommend working with other lenders or financial partners to help grow and scale your business. Maybe in some cases, equity would be most relevant, to scaling a business. And in other cases, short-term financial tools are also helpful. For example, in the case of PO financing, like we were speaking about before, I just need money for 6 months to be able to fulfill on this order. That's a perfectly acceptable and helpful application of short-term financing. So I would say that, in terms of when it comes to access to capital and financing, we have, I'd say, the knowledge and the experience to be able to hopefully help guide founders on their journey as to kind of where and when they should look for access to capital. And so that's something that for sure, we can, use our years of experience to kind of help shed some light on.
Loop offers interest-free spending. This is beginning to sound a lot like a commercial, but I guess you guys do a lot that sounds very attractive. Can you explain how this feature works and how it benefits businesses in terms of cash flow?
Yeah, so we were talking a bit about before about a multi-currency credit card. So when you spend using that credit card, you can actually get up to 55 days of interest-free purchasing. So what that means is, like, when you spend money on the card now, you only have to pay it back later. And the period of time between when you make that purchase and when you pay it back is interest-free. So going back to what we were talking about before in terms of the lumpiness of working capital, that product really can help with a lot of companies' lumpiness because they can use the card to make purchases, right? So using that card to make purchases enables them to, basically not have to put the cash up to make those purchases. And then if they pay it back later, as long as they pay it by the due date, there's no interest charges associated with it as well. So it's a very attractive financing tool for businesses.
Now, you mentioned custom products and tailor-made products that you're doing more and more of this for businesses. Can you give us an example or two of a custom solution that you have for businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were kind of briefly touching on them before, but when we were talking about things like PO financing, we can do things like, for example, when you as a company have orders coming in from a large retailer, like let's just say Walmart is placing some orders with you, and you need the cash to fulfill on those orders. It's going to take Walmart 90 days to pay you, and it's going to take you 60 days to get your inventory for that order. So that's a total of 150 days or kind of 5 months. And you need access to that capital. Loop could actually fund those orders, so we could actually pay for those orders and help you ship your product, and basically front you the money until you get paid back by Walmart in that example. So that would be an example, at least on the financing side, of some kind of custom solutions that we have. We also do custom solutions around things like foreign exchange. So for companies that are doing quite a lot of value on foreign exchange, we've worked with companies to negotiate, wholesale rates. So they're getting access to really low cost of conversion. So like, let's say you're earning a lot of money in US dollars or other currencies, and you are frequently converting that into Canadian dollars or into another currency. That's an area, again, where we would be able to help in terms of enabling a business to reduce costs or increase their margins with better access to rates.
So I'm going to throw a curveball at you. What do you wish you knew now that you didn't know before you started Loop?
Yeah, it took us a while, I would say, to get into becoming more of a broader financial partner versus being just a lending business. So when we started Loop, actually originally, we just started a product that allowed us to lend money to companies. And so we created loan products for businesses. Well, that was great, and we helped a lot of companies. I think, as you said, you highlighted how much money we've lent to companies. There were a lot of positives and a lot of learnings that we had from that journey. But I think what we realized is that, to build a valuable business, you want to be a more integrated partner into the customers that you work with. You don't want to just provide a loan or do a one-off transaction and that's it, and that's the extent of your customer relationship. You want to create something that actually creates value for your customers on a daily basis that they can use in their daily lives, to help them manage and grow their business. And so I think kind of realizing that they're, said a little bit differently, realizing that there is other ways to create value for companies by using software and technology to unlock value, I think was something that really was a big learning experience for us in our journey, and has allowed us to now build a much more valuable product, both valuable for our customers and valuable for us as well, because we're now a much more embedded partner to the businesses that we work with. So, today our business is the type of product that people use to actually operate and run their business, and that allows us to build deeper, more meaningful relationships with the customers that we support.
Do you have a favorite book for entrepreneurs?
That's a great question. I have a few. My personal favorite is The Hard Thing About Hard Things. That's the book that I've read that probably resonated with me the most. I also, if you're looking for more of a handbook style book, there's one that's literally called The High Growth Handbook. That's quite literally a startup handbook, but it's a really great book as well. So those were, I know you asked for one, but I gave you my top two anyway.
Yeah, I haven't read that second one, so I'm gonna have to take a look.
Check it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any tips for founders?
Focus on your customer. Like, be absolutely customer obsessed and customer oriented. Never stop seeking product market fit. No, always try to understand who you're working with, what the market is that you're in, understand how your product can solve a pain point for the customers that you're working with, and continue in that pursuit of making sure that your product and your business is helping the person that you're setting out to service. I would say it's a very hard journey starting a business, and so you have to be really passionate and continue to do the thing that made you start the business in the first place, which is obsess over the person that you're trying to help, obsess over the problem that you're trying to solve.
What is next for you and Loop?
Continue building. I would say, getting more awareness, knowing that helping more businesses is definitely key for us. Like, the more businesses that use our product, the more valuable our product becomes. It's a business that works on economies of scale in a way. So the more businesses we work with, the better rates that we can actually pass on to the end companies that we work with. So for us, it's really a question of scaling, getting more companies to know about Loop, understand how Loop can solve pain points for their business, but then also continuing to build products that our customers want. So understanding what their needs are, what their pain points are, and how, building out a kind of very comprehensive solution so that companies can truly rely on us to operate their business.
So if I'm an entrepreneur or a small business owner and I'm excited to hear what I heard during this podcast, where can I go to find out more?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. So our website is getloop.ca, getloop.ca. So that's where you can find and read more information about us. But also have a special offer as well for anyone listening to this podcast in particular. And so if you go to bankonloop.com, so bankonloop.com, and then /startup talk, as the / startup talk, we have a special offer there, a special promotion for people who are listening to this in particular. So I'd encourage any founders listening here today to check that out.
That's amazing. I'll put that link in the show notes and some link to your social media. Thank you for the special offer.
Yeah, of course. We are very much a community-based business, and we love working with new communities, existing old communities of small business owners across Canada. That is, building trust within segments like this is really what allows us to get more awareness out there about Loop. And so, we always want to create special offers for people that are in new networks or new communities that may not have heard about Loop to explore our product.
I know as a founder, you're really busy, but I really appreciate you taking the time today, Cato, to talk about Loop Financial, all the great things you're doing for entrepreneurs, and to be part of Startup Talk.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This was great. I had a great conversation, and thanks for the very insightful questions as well.